You are traveling on an uncertain journey. Explore, adapt, learn. Make good connections, but be careful. Be humble and prudent. Find your strength. Be open to what life has in store.
Hmm.
I Ching Oracle card is number 56, Wandering.
I don't have a riposte to that one.
That's fine. That's all right. I
Yeah.
just, I like these. I don't know if they're doing anything for me. I've been reading them for a while now, but sometimes that one I'm not really sure what to do with, except maybe go wandering. We have a guest today. He goes by Thrail, and he runs this TikTok group. I don't know what to call it. TikTok Live that happens at night, in which people are encouraged to join as guests on audio and see if they can question their beliefs. And I came across this, I don't know, some months ago, and I was curious, right? But I didn't really. I was used to a lot of these combative lives, and this one didn't feel as combative. A live, for people who don't know, if you're on TikTok, you can of course watch these short form videos, but you can also interact with other people like a Zoom call, basically. And there are themes to different lives or different forums, you might call them. And I was just having insomnia, and I happened upon Thrails, and it's called the Batcolyte. We talked about it. We talked about it with Kat. I had been talking about it before then. And what I've found out is that, at least to my mind, it has depth that is lacking in a lot of even the more philosophical and religious oriented forums on TikTok. So I want to welcome Thrail. Thank you for coming onto our podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate your. Hopefully, we did not wake you up. You sleep during the day because you are up all night long.
Yes. No, I managed to make it here. 10 minutes late? and I had been awake for about an hour.
Well, that's probably good. So you managed to kind of orient yourself before we have our conversation. I have tried my darndest to introduce Lionel to the show. Lionel, you can chime in. I think it's just not his cup of tea, or it's you were saying earlier to me, Lionel, that the recordings that I made that I sent you, set you off in a weird way, and I just want to. Can I ask about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's just I don't know. It's very visceral, like call-in radio, like even like sports radio, that kind of stuff. I don't know. It just always really bothered me. But I don't think this is a good way to begin.
Well, I don't know how to begin anything. I love it, right? I've been just sort of, I've been effusive. Is that even a word? Effusive. I've been effusive.
Effusive.
Effusive about it. I think it's not a problem that it's not for everyone. I just think that for me, it's very profound. And the reason I think it's really profound is that it's the focus on questioning, and questioning in a deep way. So I'm talking too much. Thrail, can you tell us a little bit about how it started? Is this a proper line of questioning? We are questioning the questioner here, and I don't know how you feel about that.
Oh, the question will work. How it started. I wanted to have conversations with people that didn't turn into the vitriol, the shouting, but I wanted to be able to see and explore the doubt and see if they even had it. Because so many people profess belief without any doubt or reservation. And I don't know that I ever believed them. So the more I talk to people, as you probe into those things, it always turns into some kind of heated debate or argument. And I was certain there was some way to do it without that.
Have you been successful?
Oh, yeah, I would say so. I would say that
okay.
I've had several conversations a night that go well, between the shouting and the people who just can't handle it. But I've had some very interesting conversations with people who come in confident and sure in everything that they know and leave asking questions. And that's all I'm aiming for, is to see if I can get other people who are certain, who are fixed in their certainty, to question that certainty.
Has anybody ever exited the show with their certainty intact?
Oh yeah, yeah. People do all the time.
Okay.
I find that that's most likely because of some kind of defense, some fear of questioning, or some shame in questioning, shame and doubt that they've been told that they must have. But that is me just assuming. I don't know for certain
Right.
why they can't question.
So before you started doing this, I mean, I've only been on TikTok a little while, so I don't know what the atmosphere was like in terms of the lives. I'm sure it's changed over time, or is it more or less the way it is now, except for your live?
I mean, there were a few other lives that had a similar goal, and try to keep things as respectful and cordial as possible. But for the most part, in these conversations, it's a shouting match of, someone presenting facts against someone else's facts without question.
Right. Right. Yes. I think the hardest ones for me to stomach are the philosophy. Strangely, although I love philosophy, everyone's arguing about methodology and the ways they come to approach it's the debate, right, that can become kind of tiring.
It really can. And I don't find that you're getting anywhere in a debate between the two interlocutors. You're usually, if you're making an impact on the way someone thinks, it's someone in the audience that you're not interacting with. So you don't get to see any actual change in thought or questioning happen. It's just heads butting against each other.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what's refreshing, actually, about your project. I agree. I mean, I found a few others, but only a few. There's a guy, Daniel Green, who does a good job.
He's amazing.
And I mean, Kat, of course, has done some, but I keep missing them. And I think she's taking, she's stepping off from your platform, not away, but finding her own way to do a similar thing where it isn't about proving who's right. That's it. That's what I find profound about this. It's not about proving who's right.
Absolutely. I don't think we can, in these conversations, prove that one of us is right and the other's wrong. I think what we can do is see if the person who we're talking to has even questioned whether or not they could be wrong. And so often we find that they can, but they're either afraid or timid about it. And all it takes is asking them some of the right questions to get them thinking. And it's kind of like a domino effect. Once you ask the right question, I mean, everything kind of starts to collapse.
How long have you been doing this? I've only just found you this year. So.
Yeah, I've only been doing it about a year. We started in the end of last September. So just a year and a month.
And has it evolved?
Oh,
like
absolutely.
From when you first did it, it has evolved significantly?
Oh, yeah. Well, I started just politely asking questions, but bringing up all kinds of voices all at once. And it usually would devolve into a shouting match eventually. Somebody's belief is going to confront with somebody else's belief, and they're not going to be able to question it. They're going to pronounce their certainty, and it turns into an argument. So over the time, I've found ways to enforce certain methods and take the unknowns out of the equation. So instead of bringing up a whole bunch of people with different ideas that I haven't questioned, we focus.
It's a one-up.
Yeah, we focus one believer at a time. Though the other people on the panel might be believers, we try not to focus on their beliefs if they've already questioned. We know they can question. Well, then they get to be questioners as well and help guide the conversation with their questions and concerns about the views being expressed.
Hold a second, because I didn't see, because Jim sent me an example. He sent me an example of one of your shows. I didn't. So you're saying that sometimes, because what I heard is you question. There's the guest, and you question the guest, and in the very small sample that I listened to, Kat sometimes questions too. You're saying that sometimes other people will come in on the side of the, as an assistant to the guest?
Not on the side of the guest. It used to happen. And that would usually turn into arguments between the person coming to support the guest and the guest. They would end up disagreeing about something they were trying to support each other in. And it usually turns into an argument. So like if it's a Christian on panel, there might be another Christian comes up and says, he's trying to support him in the facts of Jesus, but then they start arguing about what salvation is or how to achieve it. And we're just trying to find out why they even accept it to be true.
Right.
So I've stopped that. I do now bring up other guests like Kat and others with all kinds of beliefs. We have a regular on the shows, a rabbi. We have spiritualists. Jim is a Buddhist. We have people with all different kinds of beliefs and spiritual ideas. But the idea is for them, if I've questioned them, then they know how to question at least a little bit without putting their own bias too much in it. And so they're more seeing if the person can doubt rather than trying to make them believe what they believe.
So that's changed since the beginning. Anything else?
I used to.
It's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. I used to start the lives always with a panel. Like I would just bring up as many people I knew could question or I knew would back me up as I could. And I've realized that it doesn't set the tone right. It sets the tone the same way many of the debate spaces do. It looks like, I'm either trying to dogpile on people or I'm trying to get into a debate or facilitate some sort of group argument. And so I find it better if I always start the live with just me and lead by example.
Yeah, there's a rhythm to it. Sorry, go ahead, Lionel.
No, go ahead. You go ahead.
Oh, no, there's a rhythm. I guess the few times that I've been able to stay up and watch it from the beginning, there's a kind of careful rhythm to it. And I guess I'm amazed that it's only been a year because it seems that you've accumulated a lot of skill in terms of how to lead this particular kind of conversation. And so like you might not bring up what we call panelists as opposed to guests, right? Those would be people who have already been questioned that are there to help question. But that they won't come up until a little bit later in the evening. At first, it's really just you and a guest. I don't know where I'm going with this, but there just seems to be so much method and also because you do this pretty much every night, right? Am I right about that?
Yeah, nearly every night. I've only ever, every once in a while, every 2 or 3 weeks, I'll sleep through a night. But I've only ever, besides that, missed 4 days in a row, and that was for a vacation.
Wow.
Otherwise, it's every night.
I'm trying to think. So one of the rules that's interesting is often a guest will, in their process of kind of resisting the questions, will turn it around on you and say, well, what do you believe? And can you talk about why you shut that down?
Oh, because it becomes a debate. As soon as I express whether I believe in their God or not, what my opinion on their belief is, as soon as I start to make it about me, then they will too. They will attack whatever they can, latch on to whatever they disagree with. Because, well, I assume it's because of a defense. They need to attack what they feel is being attacked. And if we can keep them calm through that, then and remind them this is about you questioning your beliefs. Mine shouldn't make any difference to you doing that. Then it tends to calm them down and bring them back to focus.
But it is very common that people feel like a question is an attack, and one that they volunteered for, which is very odd. I guess just watching that process, it really shows me it reminds me of the workings of my own mind when I'm feeling challenged. And I guess that's one of the reasons I find it so interesting, just to see the resistance forming and why it forms and how it forms. And seeing some people actually work through it. Some of the questions you ask, I have to say, I mean, you don't hold anything back, right? You go, can you talk about just your instinct in terms of what question you choose to ask next? And I mean that usually after you have sort of a series of questions you tend to ask at the beginning. But then once you've gotten past those, you must have some intuition or it's experience that leads you to the next question. As somebody who believes in.
Yeah, I'd have to say it's experience, intuition built from experience. I don't have like a big list of questions. Well, if they say this, I'm going to ask that. It's usually from listening to what they say and trying to see if I can, before the questions even really become detailed, I try each time they present a new angle of their belief to mirror it back to them, to say it back to them in a way that lets them hear it how others hear it. Oftentimes, I don't have to ask a question before they start to waffle and question even just the way it is. But then I'm going to take what they said and ask them questions about the details, about the implications, about what it means to them, what it could mean to other people, how it could affect others. Usually those kinds of questions, they're going to cause some kind of introspection.
I'm going to jump in and say, I think I know what I find fascinating. I think I know what I find liberating about that is that having grown up in a fairly uptight household, that's just rude. It's just rude to show somebody what they think, right? Like, don't do that. That's going to make somebody uncomfortable. And to kind of fearlessly do that in spite of that kind of taboo of, well, we don't talk about that, or we don't ask somebody to question something, especially if it has anything to do with religion. Seeing the rule broken is liberating, right? But I also confess that I sometimes feel like, oh, that's too hard. Don't do that to them. Does anything ever make you want to hold back?
Yes. Yeah, there are some times when I'm questioning someone and I see a clear line of doubt that they're not recognizing. But then they'll tell me why they believe, or they'll tell me what it means to them to believe. And I hear something that sounds vulnerable and tragic, and I know that I could easily ask a question that could crumble this house of cards. And I have done it. I have gone in for those questions occasionally. But usually, when I hear that vulnerability, I take a step back and I offer them an exit. And I give them some kind of recognition for that emotion without validating the belief that it supports. And then if they're up for it, we can continue to probe, but I will be a little more indirect on that point if it feels like the conversation will become exploitational. I don't want that.
Right. But I am reminded of there's a Laurie Anderson piece. I don't know if you know Laurie Anderson, but she's a performance artist. And there's at one point in the middle of her show, she says, you don't want to see this. She does it with a vocoder, so it's really low. You don't want to see this. You don't want to be here. Do you want to go home? Do you want to go home now? And I often have that feeling like, give them an out. Let them go if they want to go. But funnily enough, often they're like, no, I want a question. I want a question.
Yeah. Through tears sometimes they'll
Yep.
they'll still say, no, I want to question this. I want to explore this. I don't know if they're thinking that there's still something to grab onto after the questions, or if they want to shed it, if they want to get rid of it, and it feels like baggage. I have to walk a fine line there and make sure it doesn't turn into a therapy session, because we're not therapists.
Yeah. So your panelists can help, right? I mean, you're doing this for 10 hours sometimes. And so I'm guessing that having myself or Kat or Hammy, of course, I only know people by their nicknames, but come by and, Khan. Khan
is excellent.
Yeah. And find that next question, maybe gives you a break. How often are they asking, or how often am I or any of us as panelists asking questions that you might not have thought about?
Oh, quite often, and that's why I like having the panelists to back me up. I don't have your background. I don't have Khan's background. I don't have Kat's background. Everybody who comes through, if I've thoroughly questioned them, I've found something that I don't possess. I can't necessarily approach the questioning from that angle, and it's actually, I learn a lot from the questions that other people ask. It's huge. It's very helpful, and I steal those questions sometimes.
Burgle.
Yeah, Burgle.
There's a. It's like a. I want to say it's a tribe of people, but it's more like a camp of people that have kind of gathered around. Once you've been questioned, and if you've been kind of thoroughly questioned enough and become a panelist, and you're ready to ask questions of the guests, that little group feels kind of like a camp or a cabin of people that are friends in some way, like we've gone through an initiation, right? This is why I've said, you definitely are in danger of becoming a cult leader, because of this sort of the questioning cult, cult of questioning, because it's an experience. It's an experience to be questioned, to be willing to actually look at your own beliefs that you think you're certain about, and then be open to them not being as solid as you thought. So you've gone through the initiation. And there are nice friendships that have developed, and there's a Discord where people hang out. But where was I going with this? Yeah, I'm Lionel. Save me. I've just gone down
So there's people who have joined your show as guests, and after some dialogue, they can join as panelists. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I will still question them again if we don't have someone else to question. There's always something in there that they believe I haven't necessarily burgled, and I can get them to critically think about, examine. But I know they can. I already know at this point that they're capable of questioning an assumption that they've carried, which clues me in that they know how to, or at least might know how to recognize and question those assumptions in others.
Has anyone surprised you?
Oh, often everybody surprises me at least once.
In a pleasant way?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had repeat guests who come up who've been around for nearly the entire time, who would, in the beginning, come up to debate, come up to argue, come up to, probe my weaknesses and my beliefs, which I'm sure they exist. I'm sure they do. But they'd try to find some line of attack. And over the course of the time, they've recognized that what I'm doing is not for the benefit of like me to score points or, add to the collection of gods that I may or may not have burgled. It's for them. It's for them to critically think and examine all of their assumptions, whether they're religious or not. I use that as the topic because it keeps us focused on one thing. But they can take those and use that credulity, that newfound incredulity, to help them in other aspects of their life. And I see the change. I've seen the change just in the way they answer questions when they come up on the panel again and again.
And it seems like there's a distinct preference for discussing religious topics and deities and things like that. But is it fairly common to venture into other topics, other beliefs?
It used to be. It used to be more common. I found it made the show kind of disjointed. We'd end up, in one moment talking about belief in a god, and the next moment belief in, the goodness of humanity, or the belief in preferences over needs, or interesting things, but still far outside of even the periphery of religion or spirituality. And if we stick on religion or spirituality, it seems we find more to question that gets other people thinking and increases engagement. I hate to say it that way, but engagement is really how we grow. So staying focused helps us grow.
That's an interesting statement. So engagement helps, but if I hear you say, like, subscribe, and ring the bell, I'm going to rage quit this thing right now. I assume you're not talking, but you want to attract more people to join the conversation?
Absolutely. I want more people to question. I think everybody should question their assumptions, whether they're spiritual assumptions or not. If you have a belief that you feel firm in, have you really probed into why you feel that way about it?
And it's the dialectic, right? I mean, I think that also is what attracted me, was that it just feels so much like the Socratic method at work, which also feels so missing from the way we interact ordinarily.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely inspired by the Socratic method and street epistemology. Those were
street epistemology.
Yeah, those are huge tools. I don't necessarily adhere to street epistemology the way some other creators might. There's another TikToker named Trust But Verify who uses a more street epistemology style. But I use a few of their tools that aren't necessarily Socratic. But I do try to focus more on open-ended questions that get a person to really probe into whatever it is they're expressing.
So unlike Socrates, you're not right. There is it cannot be any other way, Socrates. Of course, Socrates. Yes, you must be right, Socrates. You leave it in shambles, right? I mean, meaning the destination really is, I must not know, or I don't know.
Absolutely.
Instead of, it must be the good, or it has to be the forms, or we're in a cave, etc. Is there a danger in this? Do you ever worry that you're going to take somebody too far, or leave them unprepared to meet the day?
Sometimes I do. I question myself. And I wonder if what I'm doing can cause harm. I think it can. I think I have to be responsible with how far I let the questions and the conversations go. We don't have to question a belief out of existence on the panel.
Right.
We just want to
Right.
question it to the point that they go, I don't know, or I haven't thought about it that way before. That's a win. That's a win not just for me, though. That's the win for them. So, like, and
Right.
I talk about it in terms of wins and losses because that's how a lot of these debate panels go. And that's what most of the guests coming in expect, is to win a debate. But as we go through the course of it, a real win, when you really score points, is when you admit you don't know something that you obviously don't know.
That's right. So a strong believer will come into the as a guest sometimes, and I've seen them get to the point where they're like, well, okay, that part about, I don't pick something, the Gospels, when they were written or so, I really don't know. And then when they leave, what I love is you'll say, okay, W's in the chat for so and so, for Bob. You know, he stayed with the questions. He got to an I don't know. Or he looked, he was willing to question. And so then the people in the chat will, put up a W, which means win. So winning becomes redefined a bit. Instead of, I dominated you with my logic, I opened up to a question. This is what I find profound, of course. And I'm going to stop being such a fanboy, but yeah, I like the goal of this. I like the direction of it. I don't know why. I'd love to see more people. I mean, I suppose when I see something new and unique, I always wonder why it's not more populated. There are always new people, though. Do you ever find you've kind of run out of believers?
It feels like it sometimes, especially in the wee hours of the morning when we're waiting between one guest and another, and I'm questioning a questioner because we don't have somebody new to question. So it does feel like sometimes they just aren't there. Like we've questioned all the beliefs out of the room.
I'm amazed anybody shows up at all, quite frankly. They should get a medal just for showing up, honestly, sometimes. I mean, I know some people, Jim sent me something where, some people definitely show up like raring for a fight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they just want to start hollering as soon as the bell goes off. But I listened to a couple of the shows that you did, and I'm just like, I don't know. I give the person an A just for showing up, and just submitting themselves to being questioned at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just like, wow. Either they're really clueless or they're a lot braver than I am, and maybe there's no difference between the two.
Both are possible.
Yeah, it
can also be. I mean, Trail, you're razor sharp when somebody is showing up either to be insulting or because they're drunk, or it is. There are not a lot of softeners in terms of like just getting them out if they are not willing to question.
Yeah, I try really hard.
That must have evolved.
It has evolved, absolutely. We've had hours of drunken ramblings and shouting matches where I'm slamming on the mute button and raising my voice to almost shouting. It's just, we've had those happen, and still
the good old days.
The good old days, yeah. And I would get done with that conversation, send someone down, and there would be like a whole minute or more of silence, just because I need a moment to collect myself and then recognize that I just fucked up by letting my emotions respond to theirs.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it still happens, but much, much more rarely. And even then, I try to find the humor in the moment and make and give them more of a hilarious exit instead of a vitriolic one.
Right. There is a kind of lingo that you can pick up on if you have been in a number of the Batcolyte. And I'm going to spell it out for people because our listeners, I'm sure, have not been there. Batcolyte
Yes.
is the name of the live, basically, the name of the event that you want to look for on TikTok. And simulcast on YouTube with varying effect, right? And of course, you can't interact on YouTube. You can only interact on TikTok. But there is a lingo. There's like a teleology, right? That forms some of it. I think the burgling of gods came from a poem. Am I right?
Yeah, a viewer, now a moderator, Seven Lemons, wrote a poem.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if the poem preceded it. We said it before. People had mentioned that I was burgling gods, and there was a piece of art on the Discord somebody did of my Thrail, the skeleton character, with a sort of a striped shirt and a mask and a bag over his shoulder full of idols. So the Thrail, the faceless god burglar. And
got to be known for something.
Right. And that I think brought out the poem. And I read the poem a few times on the live, and it's pretty powerful.
It's great.
The shed is full.
No more gods to burgle. I know people come on and they talk about how deep your voice is, and do you have to have such a deep voice? And I know that was probably something worth addressing the first 24 times, and it must now be incredibly tiring to hear that. But I have a question about style, though. Actually, your response one time, if you want to talk about, first of all, it's your voice, but second of all, you set yourself up in a fairly comfortable position in order to handle this for so many hours. Am I right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm in a very big, comfortable chair with an ottoman in front of me. I've got a screen on either side of me and a microphone in front of me, and a mixer on the arm of one of the chairs.
Oh, wow.
So I am very relaxed, very comfortable, because I'm going to be there for a while.
All night long.
All night.
And then you have a kind of there's like a role-playing music. I think it might have changed since I started coming.
It's the same app.
There's like
it is? Yeah, I use an app that I originally got to run role-playing games. So it's a sort of a tabletop role-playing ambiance app. And it even has like a medieval-looking interface where you spin the wheel to get different background settings. And then there's these like wooden buttons that you push to choose the mood of the moment. And I've been using it for probably the better part of 6 to 8 months just for background music. I used to only turn it on when it was time for the poem, and that would be the clue to the rest of the panel that I'm ready to go to bed. But now I just keep it playing the whole time, and I'll sometimes dial in a different mood based on the conversation.
I have to listen for that.
So you'll hear it go from lute music to sort of a more tense, like a tension moment where it just kind of like strings, high strings, or it'll go to sort of an adventurous, like a jolly sort of town. Or I really like the lute, though. I go back to the lute all the time. Set us up like we're in a tavern.
Right, tavern music.
And then
tavern music in the medieval...
Right. And the irony of me booting the drunks while we're in a tavern is not lost on me.
People do show up kind of wasted, and it is entertaining, frankly, when it happens, but I know it is probably not fun because, I mean, they're impossible to question. They're just, you really need to have your whole brain on, I think, if you're going to engage in this exercise. I think you've called it an exercise.
It is an exercise. I didn't used to think of it that way, but over time it's become more obvious that that is what it is. It's a mental exercise for them. I'm just facilitating it and trying to give them an opportunity that they might not usually get to flex a muscle that they might be afraid to flex.
One of the things that some, I'm in of a different generation, but some of the people that I've invited to come by and see it, they do get put off by all the imagery of death. Can you tell me kind of how did that evolve? Like how did you come about? Just for our listeners, it's Thrail is sort of depicted. The Batcolyte is depicted usually as a skeleton in a philosophical pose, and sometimes there are skeletal bats in the background, or a crowd of skeletons. It is a very memento mori kind of a feel. But can you talk about kind of where that all comes from?
Well, I love that you used memento mori. I didn't originally intend it to be that way, to be a reminder of mortality while we're talking people through existential crises. But it really is just born from the fact that I was a goth kid in the 90s.
It just looked metal, and I used it.
Right. I went from being a goth kid in the 90s to I was in a metal band in the 2000s. And so like the graven imagery has always been around me. I've always liked it, enjoyed it. And then when starting this, so I actually set it up so that the Batcolyte is more of this it's a portmanteau of bat and acolyte.
An acolyte.
Yeah,
acolyte.
And we're
a student.
Right. We're acolytes, though, to an absurdist god called the celestial skeletal bat goddess, who doesn't really, exist, or at least doesn't matter if you believe in it, because why would anything like that care if you believe in it or not? It's just some way that I can present something as a foil sometimes in certain questions. But it exists in kind of in a questioning headspace. I've created it to be sort of the answer to all of these other gods. If you needed an answer to a god, if you needed something to call a god, well, here's this idea of something that's both deistic and theistic. It is metaphysical. It is an answer to a transcendental argument. It has its own scriptures, its own edicts. And I did that before I started the channel for fun, for no other reason. Like I wasn't planning to do it this way, but I created the Bat Goddess in a way that could answer a lot of the debate questions people already had. And so it becomes now so we're in the Batcolyte, the acolyte to the Bat Goddess, where under her wing we gather in darkness to seek wisdom together. And
can you give the there's a very quick sermon that often when somebody says where did the universe begin, or they want to take it back to the beginning of time. I love you rattle it off.
And I need to, I'm so used to phrasing everything in the form of a question. But
sorry, I'll put you're in a different environment.
Right,
so
now I've got to do it in a statement. But so the idea is that I'm so used to starting a question, I don't know how to start a sentence.
Where do you think we all come from?
Right.
Well, if there's no God, where do we all come from?
Right.
Then?
Well, who's to say? See, there it is. Who's to say that we're not all in the wing of a giant celestial skeletal bat goddess, unfurling her wings in accordance with the lambda cetium model of physics, otherwise known as the Big Bang, in which we are just one membrane between her bony appendages as they unfurl. something like that.
Gets me every time.
Sounds good to me.
Right. So it sets us up in this. It's explanatory if you need explanation, but there's no reason to believe that it's actually real. Though I do, if I really want to put somebody on a back foot, I'll pull up a photograph of a bat nebula and say, look, here's aspects of her all over the universe, meant just for us to see. Anyways, I could just as easily preach the sermon of the bat goddess. I try to use it sparingly as more of an example to give something, to get somebody who's saying something kind of absurd to recognize the absurdity of what they're saying without calling it directly out, but just presenting my own version of it. And so we're in the Batcolyte under her wing. Thrail, the character of the questioner, is a skull because it's well, I like graven imagery, but also the faceless questioner is what I was trying to set up. A faceless character who you don't need to see what they believe. You don't need to know what they look like. You don't need to know who they are. You just need to hear the questions. It gives you one less thing to attack. So
Right.
Thrail is the faceless questioner under the wing of the celestial skeletal bat goddess.
That's right. I hadn't thought about that. That it is a faceless questioner. And that does help. Interesting. God. Lionel, do you have any other questions?
You're done.
I hope we're not ending too early. And we've kind of we've heard a lot about the history of this and the methodology of this, and also kind of why it can be either frightening or also strangely compelling. So I don't know how many of our listeners actually are on TikTok, but if you are, search up the Batcolyte and stay up late. It is always something that you'll always learn something. It's kind of a fascinating ride. And I want to thank you, Thrail, for coming by and talking to us about this. It was just very great and very generous of you, and really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was a good time. I hope we can do it again sometime.
Funny Not Funny is produced by Jim Infantino at Slab Media in Boston. Jim Infantino and Lionel Casson are the co-hosts. Our website is funnynotfunny.net. The theme music is from the song Wheel from the album Utopia Revisited by Jim. The opinions presented by the co-hosts are ridiculous and should not be taken seriously by anyone. Our intended audience is literally nobody. If you're listening to this podcast, you should probably pause to reflect on other choices you've recently made. Please do not subscribe or leave a rating or review. It only encourages us to make more. Thanks for listening.